Hey guys, Jack here with another episode of Jack's Low Carb Journey. Today we're going to talk about 8 pieces of information that are being put out often by people that I highly respect. And I want to make sure that I go into this because some of this you may, if you are like me and you binge watch a lot of the keto stuff on other YouTube channels, may realize that some of the stuff I'm talking about has been said maybe a bunch of times by some people that are really well known, well liked, and have helped a lot of people. Nothing I'm saying today is to detract from any of the work any of these people do, and I'm not going to name any of them by names and like call them out or something like that. And a lot of this stuff that I'm going to cover is like this, they're just wrong. Some of it's just wrong. A lot of it's not wrong. It's absent important additional information, or it's presented in the wrong context, or in some instances, it's based on truth, but still a lie. How does that all work? Well, we'll get to this as I tell you where I'm at from a standpoint of my progress. Since yesterday, dropped 0.2 of a pound. I'm sitting at 218 even today. My big landmark number that it seems like I hit this little plateau for like the last week and a half where I'm still dropping, but tiny bits, is 217. 217 is going to put me at 30 pounds. Of course, as soon as I get that, you know what, I'm going to be like 230, I want 35 pounds, right? Because I want to bring that 35-pound plate in like I did that 25-pound plate. It's just going to take a little bit longer, but, and I share these plateaus and things like that with you guys so that, when you're watching my videos, if you watch this whole series, you can see like I'm like, and then it kind of levels out, and then like I have those too. And it's not always just continuously losing massive amounts of weight all the way down to a goal. The way I look at it, if it takes me 6 months to weigh 195 pounds, and when I got out of the Army, I was like almost that much. And then I spent 3 months on the Appalachian Trail hiking, and I hiked over 1,100 miles. And even after that, I was in like high 180s. If it takes me 6 months to get down to a weight that I was in my early 20s at almost 50, I don't care. It's okay. And I think that a lot of y'all, I want you to stay motivated and don't worry about the fact that, well, I only lost a pound this week. Well, great. If you need to lose 50 pounds in a year, you'll have done it. I mean, that's the way to look at it. That your body will self-correct as long as you feed it the right food. You limit your caloric intake so you're not being stupid about things. And when you fall off the wagon or whatever, you just get right back on instead of punishing yourself. So just little words of wisdom there. So one of the things I didn't kind of celebrate with you guys yesterday is something that happened in my latest measurement. So even though I only lost like a pound, I have noticed the way I look in the mirror. I always talk about looking in the mirror and the cause of and solution to your problems is the person looking back at you. The person looking back at me has continued to look leaner. And I believe I put some muscle on in addition to taking some more fat off, and that's why the weight loss slowed a little bit. My body fat is not where I want it to be, but it has dropped to 24%, which means that as of the 5th, a few days ago, I'm no longer considered obese. I am overweight, but not obese anymore, and that's a victory. Moving from excessively obese, because that's 24%. I started this journey at 35%. My body fat percentage has gone down 11%. I just recently did a post of a picture to Facebook. I'll link to it in the video notes here, where I have the tape measure around my stomach at my starting waist measurement, and it looks like a person can fit in there. It feels pretty good. So don't just weigh yourself, measure yourself, and give yourself some time for this all to work. Some of y'all have been, 60% body fat for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. And if that's where you're at, you're females that are like 60, and I've got some people on my channels that are like men that are at like almost 50. If you've been that way a long time, it's going to take your body some time. Because remember, keto is not always lose weight and get healthy. A lot of times you get healthy and you lose weight. So sometimes it takes more time to correct. But stick with it. The system works, like I've told you before. So let's talk about these 8 things that people say. And again, I'm not putting anybody down. Some of them are sort of true, some of them are kind of true, and some of them are just not true at all. Let's start out with the first one that's not true. It's just you really need to know the full context of this to make a better decision. So I see a lot of people in the keto world, especially when we start talking about coffee and putting all kinds of good stuff in our coffee, talk about using cinnamon. And one of the reasons for using cinnamon is it has a positive effect on our blood sugar. In other words, it lowers blood sugar and does some other good things as well. And that is true. The important thing to understand about cinnamon, though, is not all cinnamon is created equal. 99% of the cinnamon that you're going to go to a store and buy is what's called cassia. It's cassia. It's Chinese cinnamon is the common name, but it's a totally different species from true cinnamon. It's called cassia. And it is a lot stronger tasting. And it does have some of the health benefits, but there is, and I can't remember the name of the compound. There's a compound in it that is significantly toxic. Now, in small amounts, it's not a huge deal. But you can exceed that amount with as little as 1 teaspoon per day. So if you're using enough cinnamon to have a significant impact on your blood sugar and to flavor things, you could easily, with maybe a coffee and a dessert, easily be going over that. The good news is a much milder tasting cinnamon that's commonly called Sri Lankan cinnamon, sweet cinnamon, or true cinnamon, which is a really good common name for it, because it is true cinnamon. It's called Ceylon cinnamon. It costs more and it's worth it. And so when you see people showing you their Bulletproof coffees and they're throwing, cinnamon out of a little and everything's freaking organic that they have, right? They've gone out of their way. Grass-fed this, beautiful butter, organic chicken in their lives, and everything's great. And then they're, sitting there with a thing of McCormick freaking Chinese fake cinnamon and dumping that in their coffee and putting a toxin into their body on purpose by accident. Don't do that. Get Ceylon cinnamon. If you can't find the store, go to Amazon and just type in Ceylon cinnamon, and you'll find lots of sources of it. I buy it by the pound from a company called Frontier Organic, and I will put about 3/4 of a teaspoon of that in a coffee sometimes. 3/4 of a teaspoon of that in a level flat teaspoon of cocoa powder, about 4 drops of stevia, and then your creamer of choice, and throw that in a blender with some MCT oil. Awesome taste. And yeah, that compound, again, I can't remember what it's called, but it is in true cinnamon as well, but it is 1/250th the concentration of cassia. Cassia to me is not human food. It does not belong in our body. Don't use it. Make sure you're buying the right kind of cinnamon. Pink salt. Guys, I love pink salt, and I love raw sea salt, and I think that eating things in an unrefined state is a great idea. But this belief, and there's a lot of people, including big name people in our space, and I think they mean well, that talk about all these trace minerals, macro and micronutrient minerals that you're going to get if you use pink Himalayan salt. Because everybody knows the salt from the store, it's just pure sodium chloride, and the pink salt's got all this wonderful stuff in it. If you run a spectral analysis of Himalayan pink salt, you will find that it is 98% or higher sodium chloride. That means all those other 88 minerals they want to talk about make up less than 2% of the total. And there's 88 of them. So 188, if they were even, you'd have 1/88 of 2% per micronutrient, micromineral. In other words, the amount of Himalayan pink salt you need to consume to get a bump in something like boron or manganese is excessive as to what you would ever consume. And even though I'm not big on let's limit sodium, because I think that's just a bunch of bullshit from the medical establishment as well, people limit sodium because when there's too much flavor of it, we don't like our food anymore. So if you let people just salt things to their taste, especially as long as their taste buds aren't damaged because of poor diet, smoking, and things like that, people will self-moderate their sodium to a good intake, and generally it'll solve a lot of ketogenic problems. So salt in your diet is good. Raw sea salt, Himalayan pink salt, it's all awesome. But you're not going to get your freaking micronutrients from freaking Himalayan salt, and it won't do the square root of fuck all to help you do that because there's not enough of it there. So when people say, well, get the Himalayan salt and you get all the manganese, no, that is not a thing. It's just not true. And the people that say it, they don't know any better. They haven't looked it up, and they mean well. And it's not going to hurt you to use it, but you're not going to get your manganese, your boron, your copper, your selenium, etc. from Himalayan pink salt. It's not possible. Look it up if you doubt me. It's not a thing. Sorry. Don't mean to pop your bubble, but pop, there goes your bubble. Next up, tilapia. There's a horrible fish that no one should ever eat because all they do is feed them pig shit and cow shit. If you're getting Chinese tilapia, yeah, probably true. Don't recommend it. Not even a little bit. In fact, the Chinese are shipping tilapia to the United States that aren't legal for sale in China because they have an additive they put in their feed so they can survive on that crap that's not legal for sale to people in China, but it's legal for sale to people in America because our government's for sale, we all know that, so they use it for the stuff they ship over here. So Chinese tilapia, no. If you have a source of tilapia, if you have a fishmonger that sells tilapia that comes from a known source, that sells tilapia feeds their tilapia a good diet, then there ain't nothing wrong with tilapia. So this is one of those ones that's true, but it's only true if you're buying mass-produced tilapia from China. If you buy an organic produced tilapia, it's probably one of the better fish in the world. If you have a friend that does aquaponics that's good enough to share some tilapia with you, and you know what those fish are eating, there's nothing wrong with tilapia. My tilapia eat, they eat black soldier fly larvae, they eat fish food, and they eat duckweed and salvinia. I have never fed my tilapia shit. Therefore, they don't have shit in their diet. So tilapia in of itself is not a poor quality fish. Commercial produced Chinese tilapia is. So that's one that's true, but not if you know the full story behind it. Next, all your food better be organic. I'll name this one. I'm looking at you, Dr. Berg. I'm sorry. This is a mistake to tell people. To say that you should strive to make sure that organic quality of your food is your minimum acceptable standard, great idea. To tell people that if they don't do that, they might as well not do keto or come across as though that's the case, even if you don't mean it, it's stupid. That's why I've done videos on like how to limit your factory meat consumption so that if you are eating factory fed beef, maybe you're doing it once or twice a week so your body can do a better job while you're getting healthy of getting those toxins out of your body, then just don't bother at all. And I think that a lot of people with the whole, it's got to be organic. Really? Because the food I grow in my backyard is beyond organic, but it's not organic. The food I can get that my neighbor grows down the road is not marketed as organic, but it's better than organic. So I think that organic is nice, but in some cases organic is not much of a value add at all. If you're buying organic eggs and you have issues with soy, you're eating a shit out of soy phytoestrogens that are concentrated in that egg. So you need to think beyond the organic concept. And if you have to eat some stuff that would be called dirty keto to be able to afford this, then do it. This is why I talk about things like taking a big, beautiful steak, but if it's going to be a steak that's factory raised, let's trim as much fat off of it as we can. And then let's cook it with some ghee on it or some ghee in it. Let's sous vide that sucker. Take some ghee and garlic and salt and pepper and put it right on there. And then put it in the sous vide machine and let it cook for several hours so that ghee fat actually melds with that beef. Then when we sear it off, let's take all the juice that's in there in that bag. And after we sear the steak, let's dump that in there. Reduce it down a little bit, dump it over our steak. And then, so we get our fat content back up, let's go ahead and throw a little bit of avocado or coconut oil or something like that on our salad. All right? Simple. So, organic, great, but don't think you're not doing keto if you're not doing organic. I don't even like the word dirty keto. Keto is keto. Keto is not Whole30. Keto is not primal or what was it, paleo, or all these diets that have all these stipulations on them. Keto is keto. Keto means we're keeping our carbs really, really low and our fat at about 70% to 75% of our calories. And we're getting sufficient protein. That's what keto means. It doesn't mean any of the other shit people say that it means. Now, if you want to be healthier, then striving to do better is a great idea. I know I do it, and I try to tell y'all how to do it. But you can't get hung up on it to the point where, well, I can't do keto because I can't afford it. I would rather you do keto with cheap-ass ground beef from Walmart than live on grains, for most of you anyway. Next, natural vinegar, like Bragg's, with the mother in it and a little dusty stuff in it and all, and it's got probiotics and what have you. First of all, apple cider vinegar, wonderful for you while you're on a keto diet. This should definitely be part of what you do. Cooking with it, making salad dressings with it, adding it to a drink, whatever, wonderful. Acetic acid, wonderful things for the body. And if you're drinking a raw vinegar with live organisms in it, that is good for you. But when I hear people talk about, well, I want to make sure we use this for the probiotics in it, and then they throw a tablespoon into something that they're going to cook, it doesn't survive if you heat it above about 110 degrees. If you cook with anything that has probiotics, so it's not just apple cider vinegar, yogurt or anything like that, once you cook it, you've pasteurized it, which means you've killed all living life inside of it. So it's not that apple cider vinegar is not good. It's not that vinegar with live cultures in it isn't good. It's that don't be talking about live cultures while you're dumping something into a pan or a pot and you're cooking with it. When I've seen people, they're making bone broth, and they say, well, add some apple cider vinegar. It helps the extraction from the bones. It absolutely does. Well, make sure you give it a good shake. So you've killed it. You're going to make bone broth? You're going to simmer it for hours, or you're going to put it in like an Instapot or a pressure cooker and cook it for 45 minutes at 244 degrees at high pressure steam? No, nothing's left alive at that point. Please stop saying stuff like that, y'all that are doing it. Next one. This is one that's true, but some people should chill the hell out about: dairy and inflammation. There are some of y'all out there in the keto world that you talk about dairy as though if somebody has a cup of cream, to take a couple tablespoons of cream in their coffee, they're going to swell up like that chick in the Willy Wonka movie that turned into a giant blueberry and roll down the street, explode, and die. First of all, when we talk about dairy on keto, we're not talking about milk. We're talking about heavy cream, maybe some half and half. We're talking about quality cheeses and stuff like that. And some people do have somewhat of an inflammatory response to dairy, but that's something that you know and you determine whether you have that or not. If you don't have that, then you don't have that. And well, you can't see. Look, if you eat, if you keep all your macros right and you include cheese in what you're doing and you continue to get healthier and your numbers look good across the board, don't let somebody scare you away from freaking cheese. My wife will give up an awful lot to be on keto. She's not giving up her cheese. I just heard her sound off in there like, nah, I ain't giving up my cheese. No, and I don't expect her to. Now, I do suggest, that processed cheese crap that comes in a bag that's garbage, that says processed right on the ingredients. Well, don't use that. Use high quality cheeses. But don't be afraid of all dairy. Again, this is not paleo and somebody's altruistic version of paleo. If you want to do that, fine. But don't drag that into keto unless you say, this is the way I do it. If you say this is the way you do things, I don't care what you say then. But inferring to people that it's not keto because you have dairy on it, that's just not a thing. It's never been a thing, not going to be a thing. Stop saying it. And if you hear somebody saying it, you can say, that's fine for them, but it doesn't apply to me. But the truth side of this, if you do have inflammatory issues, then, kind of a bout of a paleo diet. See, paleo is elimination. And one thing that eliminates dairy, if you eliminate the dairy and some of your inflammatory issues go away, and you bring the dairy back and you have inflammatory issues, then this is true for you, and eliminating it or reducing it as much as possible is probably worth doing. All right? Next. You're not fasting. You've broken your fast and ruined everything because you drank Bulletproof Coffee. Well, this is one of those, it depends. Did you drink a Bulletproof Coffee that you dumped a half a stick of butter in and you just consumed 800 calories? Because then I would agree, you've completely broken your fast. See, one of the things we have to get off of in the world today on everything, not just keto diets, but this binary code idea, like everything's like a computer, you got ones and zeros. You're on or you're off, right? So you're on or off. No, it's not how all this stuff works. Type 2 diabetes is a great example of this. A lot of people say, well, I'm not type 2 diabetic, but I'm pre-diabetic. You know what that means? That means you're type 2 diabetic, but you're just this much type 2 diabetic instead of this much type 2 diabetic. And because of that, they haven't labeled you diabetic yet. Because diabetes, when it comes to type 2, is not really diabetes. It's insulin resistance. And it's like that dimmer switch on your wall where the lights get brighter and brighter and brighter. And they say it's diabetes once the light's fully bright. Well, you're turning it way up, so you start turning it way down. So, when it comes to fasting, there's fasting and there's like ultra fasting. So if you have a BMR of, let's say, 2,400 calories a day, and that means you can go 1 hour on 100 calories, you follow that. And you ate at 6 o'clock last night, and you haven't had anything to eat, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and last night, you ate 800 calories. You're out of calories. You see how that works? Like, you're out of calories to run your body. Your body now has no choice. It has to be going to the well and getting stored fat. If you drink a Bulletproof Coffee and you throw maybe a tablespoon of MCT oil on there for the 120 calories and a couple tablespoons of half and half in there, and that's kind of what you have. So you have like 150 calorie coffee. You can run your body for about 90 minutes on those calories. Now, we also know that MCT oil is going to bump your metabolism at least 5%. So we're going to rev up the metabolism in exchange for those 120 calories. It's not enough to completely get rid of them, but it goes across the board, if we start doing that every day. So what that means is at 9 o'clock in the morning, you have that 150 calories in your coffee. Have you broken your fast? Well, you turn the dimmer switch up. But 90 minutes later, what has happened? Your body's used most of those calories. Now, it doesn't mean there's not a little bit here lingering, but your body, to run its processes and to do its stuff so that you can walk to work or whatever and breathe and have your heart beat and exist, has to go to the well to get some of its calories again. It's now living off its reserves. If you're living off your reserves for a period of time, then you are fasting from the standpoint of the dimmer switch is way down. And you're getting the benefits of fasting. So might you get a better benefit on a 2 meal a day intermittent fast 18-hour cycle between meals if you didn't have those calories? Maybe. But if you don't think you're getting the benefits of intermittent fasting doing what I just explained, you don't understand the benefits of intermittent fasting in the first place. Are you getting as many as you could? Maybe not, but you are still better off than eating 3 meals a day that way. Because 150 calories is not a meal. And when you're taking a huge hit of it in the form of something like an MCT oil, which is brain fuel, that revs up the whole metabolism for the rest of the day, and a lot of it goes straight to the brain, because remember, since we are in a carbohydrate restricted state, our brain's running off of ketones, right? So our body's having to make the fat into a fuel and send it to the brain. So the brain's going, give me more. I just woke up. Hey, we took a walk. We worked out. This guy wants to think about shit now and do his job. Give me energy. So then you give it MCT oil and the body goes, oh shit, this is easy stuff. We don't have to do anything with it. Just send it up to the brain. So a lot of those calories go to fuel the brain. So you've broken your fast, but you haven't broken your fast, if that makes sense. Last, this is what has to stop. Sucralose is partially digestible and increases blood sugar. This is fake. This is false. This is not true even a little bit. Not at all. We have had dozens of low-carb YouTubers get a glucose meter and try various different sweeteners and take a whole bunch of it, like equivalent to the sweetening that you would get from, let's say, 3 tablespoons of sugar, which I think is a bit extreme anyway. Because I have never put 3 tablespoons of sugar in anything that's a serving size in my life. No matter how fat I've been, that's just not, I'm sure I ate it in the form of processed foods where I didn't know, but I've never, make a cup of coffee and put 3 tablespoons of sugar. Holy shit. But they did the equivalent of 3 tablespoons of sugar in the sweetness of sucralose. And what it did to a blood glucose meter? Nothing. 0. Nothing at all. And it's been repeated by dozens of people that have done this. Because once somebody does something in this space, then everybody does it too. All right? The highfalutin low carb guy did it. I think the people that first did it was the Keto Connect people. Keto Connection, Keto Connect, whatever they are, the husband and wife just had a baby. Yeah, they did it first, and then a bunch of other people did it. And they got no movement at all taking 3 tablespoons worth of sucralose. Again, I would never use 3 tablespoons worth of sucralose. So where's the truth in this one come from? Splenda will absolutely make your blood sugar go up. Will Splenda sucralose, see? No. Splenda is sucralose and maltodextrin. Maltodextrin will make your blood sugar go up. Maltodextrin has available calories in it. Maltodextrin is a sugar that your body can digest. It's not fully digestible, but it's partially digestible. So if you eat maltodextrin, well, your blood glucose is going to go up. So if you test your blood glucose after consuming Splenda, your blood glucose goes up. Has nothing to do with the sucrose. Okay? Let's imagine that you decided you wanted to know whether or not the artificial sweetener stevia makes your blood sugar goes up. Most people agree it does not. Or if it does, it's a very, very small amount. It may be just a hormonal reaction or something like that. It's not what we're worrying about. You can use stevia. Almost everybody agrees with that. So you saw somebody and they said, I'm going to prove that it does. So they took a potato tot and they sweetened it with stevia and they ate it. And they said, look, see, my blood sugar went up after I ate this potato tot sweetened with stevia. So stevia made my... You'd say, no, you dumbass. The potato tot made your freaking glucose go up. And we all know potato tots make blood glucose go up. That's why we don't eat potato tots on keto. That's splendid. The maltodextrin is the issue. So, now, I think that large amounts of sucrose can have some issues with not so much... People are about digestive distress, but I think it can have a negative impact on your gut flora. And because of that, I think you want to limit how much of it you use. But the reason I don't like when people start making statements like that, number one, it's just not true. And I don't think we should be saying things that aren't true. And somebody who is very well known, who I have an incredible amount of respect for, who I've learned ass loads from in the past couple months, has been saying this over and over again, that Splenda makes your blood sugar go up. And I've commented on your post, dude, if you ever see this, and said, where do you get that from? Look it up. I'm not lying. Sucrose does not make your blood sugar go up. And people, please, when you see some of our well-known, well-thought-of people making this claim, correct them in the comments. Be nice about it, but correct them, because I don't think they want to be saying things wrong either. I think what they mean, some of them, is Splenda does, and others, they've just heard people, so they keep repeating it, which is dangerous. But this is why I don't like crapping on artificial sweeteners. I think a lot of times, and you guys know I'm not big on the whole keto treats thing early on. I think that you need to go 30, 40 days with just like a straight keto so that you break your addiction. But then when you want to add things like a keto cookie or something like that, the best results I've seen are not, well, erythritol doesn't move your blood sugar, so let's sweeten with erythritol. It'll be something like we want the equivalent of, say it is multi-serving, so we want the equivalent of 4 tablespoons of sweetener. So instead of using 4 tablespoons of an erythritol sweetener that's a match, tablespoon for tablespoon, what people will do is, well, I'll get 2 tablespoons of sweetness out of the erythritol, I'll get 1 tablespoon of sweetness out of the stevia, and I'll get 1 tablespoon of sweetness out of sucrose. And by blending them, any of the unusual characteristics that are different than sugar kind of cancel each other out, and you get a better end product. And if you look at some of the best products out there, like let's say Fat Snacks, SNAX cookies, that's exactly what they're doing. They're using erythritol, xylitol, which I'm not a fan of at all, and stevia in their cookies. But I wrote the president, and I got to get in touch with him because he did, I'm giving him props. He wrote me back directly. And he said, we have less than 1 gram of xylitol in those cookies. So to me, that means consider it a gram and add a half gram to what they say their net carbs are. It's still really low. But he said exactly why. He said, because that's why when you eat one of our cookies, it doesn't have that like cooling mint-like menthol thing that something pure xylitol does. They blend together. So I think that if we start shit canning certain sweeteners, then we limit ourselves to using these combinations with some of our treats, if you want to understand that. And we just, again, we shouldn't be making statements that aren't true. If you want to say Splenda will make your blood sugar go up, fine, because it does. But don't say sucrose does, because it doesn't. So there you go. There's 8 things that some people that I really respect, and I don't mean to talk down to them or put them down at all, are saying about the keto diet that either aren't true, are only partially true, or are based on fact, yet are completely a lie, or are just wrong. Like the pink salt, guys. I'm sorry, you're not getting your micronutrients from pink salt. You'd have to eat enough salt to kill yourself to get a significant quantity of those additional 88 elements. Just science. I'm sorry. 98% sodium chloride, and most of it will test out higher, like 98.5% to 99%. At least 1 to 1.5% for it. Stop buying into stuff. Start correcting people nicely and do your own research. With that, Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, you can find all the episodes in a playlist down in the video notes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comments. And let me say this, since I was correcting people today. If I get it wrong, tell me. I'll look it up. I'll research it. If I verify that you're right, I will correct it, and I will thank you. I will thank you for correcting me, because the ignorant enjoy being corrected. The fools are offended by it. With that, remember, cause of and solution to all your problems is in the mirror, and that mirror is probably in your bathroom on the floor as a scale. That scale is your friend or your enemy. Get on keto. It might start being your friend.